Well, I didn't mean to start this business. It was not intentional. I owned an agency. People were asking me for help. So it was a business born out of demand, pure demand from my peers who were also agency owners. The concept of automation in different industries is interpreted differently. I came from originally, I was in the banking industry, and automation was, things like ATM machines and cash recyclers and different things like that.
You bake that into the workflows or into the software, and it actually uplifts everybody using it. So it's almost as if you take the best agent at a company and use their workflow, and then you scale it across the company.
I don't want to replace my staff with automation. And that is not at all the point. So, of course, it is to empower your staff and allow better customer service, more sales.
Welcome to Ansible Edge, the podcast highlighting visionary leaders driving small tech-focused businesses. We showcase agile innovators converting bold ideas into sustainable growth and operational excellence. Each episode offers actionable insights, inspiring stories, and practical guidance. Join us in exploring the future, learning from successes and challenges, and understanding technology's transformative potential with empathy and curiosity. Welcome to today's episode. We're honored to have Mariah Gates, founder and CEO at Accelerated Automation, as our guest. Mariah brings deep expertise in bridging technology and insurance operations, having built Accelerated Automation into a team of 14 that has supported nearly 1,000 agencies nationwide. What began as pure demand for CRM and workflow support has grown into a high-touch service model combining implementation, live training, and fractional COO services for insurance agencies. In this episode, Mariah shares how her team helps small agencies embrace automation without losing the human touch. She explains the challenges of scaling white glove services and how deeply personalized workflows have become a key differentiator for their clients. We also explore her journey from agency owner to tech consultant, the systems that drive sustainable growth, and the power of live training in driving adoption. Join us for an insightful conversation on automation, operations, and the future of small business innovation in the insurance space.
Mariah, thank you so much for joining us today. Where are you calling in from?
Currently, I am in Carlsbad, California, but I'm actually from Boise, Idaho.
Well, I hope that you're enjoying the time in California and soaking up some of that sun. TJ and I are both in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico right now, so we're also really enjoying all the sun and nice weather, especially since it seems like it's been getting a little cold back at home in Denver.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. We're actually right by the water. I actually spent last week in Las Vegas at conferences. And so the very dry heat and then coming straight over to the coast, I'm enjoying the humidity and the sun. So it's a nice balance. But yeah, still in Idaho, it's a little chilly.
Yeah, that absolutely sounds nice. Vegas is not my favorite place, but I do really like the dry heat. Colorado's a lot of dry heat too. I've been really reveling in the humidity down here in Mexico. Just like my skin feels like it's sucking all the moisture in. And yeah.
Definitely good for that.
Yeah, so we've worked with companies doing automation in other verticals, and we were really wondering how you're approaching that in the insurance space.
Yeah, that's a great question. So how we approach automation in the insurance space is particularly working with the agency owners and the staff. The concept of automation in different industries is interpreted differently. I came from originally, I was in the banking industry, and automation was, things like ATM machines and cash recyclers and different things like that. And then you come into the insurance industry, at least when I came in 2014, and automation wasn't a word that you heard in the industry. There's been a really large technology boom in the insurance space. And we were kind of an early adopter in that. So how we approach it is really first helping an agency understand what can be automated reasonably without really causing too much disruption to the client or the staff, because there is a very closely held belief in the insurance space that providing live hands-on support when you're a small business, like from the agency force, they don't want to have anything that really puts a wedge or puts a gap between their customer and them and their staff. There's a lot of value in that relationship and the education that is really prevalent in the small business insurance agencies. So the first step is to help them understand what can they do and automate, and how does that impact their staff? One of the first objections we always hear is, I don't want to replace my staff with automation. And that is not at all the point. So of course it is to empower your staff and allow better customer service, more sales. So we primarily help agents kind of dip their toe in and get started with a CRM platform for automation. And that's actually very rare in insurance agencies. There's still a lot only using their AMS systems, which do not have automation capabilities, or some who are still on paper files and Excel sheets. So it's been very interesting working in, you guys are shaking your heads like, what? How is that possible? When I took over both of my insurance agencies, there was massive stacks of file cabinets in these agencies of paper docs. And it was amazing to me that businesses were still doing that. So we approach it very carefully and from an education base, and usually starting with a CRM to start automating communications with prospects and customers. That's where a lot of our customers start. And then from there, of course, it's a rabbit hole because they see how much that can do for their business, how much it can take off their plate, how much more their staff can actually handle, and how well their customers and prospects respond to it. And then they just want to continue to automate from there. It's just a rabbit hole. They're looking for every possible automation option.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. I love it. We've been exploring automation options to help other companies with. And really, once you open people's eyes to the possibilities of taking their existing staff and making it so that they can work smarter instead of harder, it's almost how I would describe it. It's like, let the machines do what the machines are good at and let people do what they're good at. And people just seem to love it once you really start to expand their horizons and get them comfortable with the idea of all the different things that they can.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for starting small and getting a use case example and seeing the benefit and then continuing to move through it. Because if you work in the tech space, you trust automation. It's just part of your life. But if it's new to you, there is a lot of trust issues initially on what that's going to do to the interactions in your business and how your staff and your customers will receive it. So starting small is important, and then continuing to build on it. Also, that's important because you can only change so much at a time in an organization before you kind of have a mutiny on your hands. The staff is good. There's too much is changing, and it's maybe too difficult to do their jobs. And so there's a lot to manage in adding automation to a small business, but it's a very fun process. We absolutely love doing it. And then as our customers have been using it for, a year or so, they're always coming back for more and looking for more ways to continue to optimize.
Great. Mariah, can you tell us a bit more about your role and how it fits into the larger picture?
My role at Accelerated Automation, well, I'm the founder and CEO here, and our role as far as working with business owners is that our team helps to build out and fully prepare workflows, campaigns, and automation for insurance CRMs, and then our team implements that in the agencies. So we're actually really kind of holding their hand through it. We work between the software companies and the users. If anyone has worked with any software company, you know that the level of support can vary, right? It can really vary between just a library and maybe a chat bot, maybe to some initial onboarding customer service. And when it comes to small business owners, they usually have, one of two things. They either have time or they have money. And if they have a lot of time, but maybe not a lot of money, then they're going to try to learn these tools on their own and invest that time to get to that efficiency level. If they don't have time, but they have some money to throw at some of these problems in their business, then they'll look to hire additional services. And when you hire out, of course, or delegate out these high skill level tasks like implementing new software, building out workflows and campaigns, you're able to move a lot faster. When I first started with automation, it took me a year to build out my CRM on my own as an agency owner and just while I was running my business. And it was a lot to learn. And, we get agencies up and running and fully utilizing and implementing a fully built system within less than 60 days.
Wow, that's very quick. That's a really good efficiency to get everything up and running in 60 days. What does your day-to-day look like as founder and CEO?
So my day-to-day has changed a lot because I started this business. Well, I didn't mean to start this business. It was not intentional. I owned an agency and people were asking me for help. So it was a business born out of demand, pure demand from my peers who were also agency owners and were looking to implement these tools. So my day-to-day as a founder started as just doing everything, right? Where I think a lot of small business owners start is you just wear all the hats. You're providing the service, you're doing the marketing and the bookkeeping doing and everything that you're doing for the business. But today we're 6 years old as a company, and we have 14 team members, and we've helped almost 1,000 agencies nationwide. And today my role as a founder is really to be the person that's looking forward, who's looking at where the industry is going, and I'm supporting my team. So I, as a founder, as a small business owner, had to learn delegation. I think like most business owners, I'm a very type A, and I want to control everything. That's been really hard to overcome. But as you hire great team members and you trust them, I was able to delegate parts of the business, create department heads and who are responsible for the day to day. And then my role is supporting them, making sure that our product is good, our customers are well taken care of. I am hiring the right people. They have the right tools to continue to advance. We're always researching new technology and systems that our clients can utilize as well. So I really see myself as, I don't know, I guess maybe the boat captain. And I'm looking forward, making sure we don't hit any icebergs. I'm making sure that the crew is well taken care of and all the passengers on board are also, not jumping ship or anything like that. As I've done that more and more, and I hired a business coach in January to help me with this because it was tough for me to remove myself from the day to day. I really love what we do and I wanted to keep doing that. But when I hired my business coach and we've worked on that, and she keeps proving to me that it's correct, that I have to be that boat captain. Every time I join the crew, and start doing the work for the passengers, something happens. Something goes wrong. The boat goes off the course, or we start getting close to an iceberg, or maybe we hit one. Because I can't see it coming because I'm working in the crew. So that is really what my day to day is like. I had 3 meetings with my staff this morning for new team members, making sure that their training process was going well, getting their feedback on the process, seeing how they're enjoying the team, if we need to support them further, making sure they're on track as well. So that's kind of what my day-to-day looks like.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like you're working to make a really coveted transition from working like within the business as it's often described versus working on the business. And that's a huge victory. And I'm excited to see how things go for you and the company over the next several months. Thinking back in the earlier days, you were mentioning how you were essentially providing services for your other colleagues in the industry because there was such a demand for automation. What was that like when you first established a company and then were working to establish a market fit for your services?
Oh my gosh, the process of trying to create a product in a space where there is no product. It's not like we're selling shoes or you're going to come to my location, I'm going to make you a cup of coffee. It is figuring out what works best in the insurance space and then creating a product that is able to be repeated in multiple agencies who, of course, all have their own nuances and best practices and ways that they want to do things. So creating the product, I feel like that's what we've been doing the last 6 years. So it was like a 6-year long process. Day one was just, agents asking me to help them with their campaigns and workflows. And this is kind of a funny story to tell, but I said no for a very long time. The company that we work in conjunction with, the CRM we primarily work with, had asked me to help their users, and the users were asking me to help them. And I had said no. I had 2 kids. I had, tried to have a life. I had an insurance agency I was running, and it didn't seem like something I wanted to add to my plate. But it kept coming up, and I prayed about it a lot because that's what I do when I'm trying to decide big life decisions. Ultimately, kind of the tipping point was I really wanted a housekeeper. I wanted someone I'm like the opposite of Martha Stewart. I don't like cleaning and cooking, and I really wanted someone to help with the housework. And my husband was like, no, we don't want to put that in our budget. That's a waste of money. So I said, well, what if I can kind of help people with automation? All these people are asking me, and then I'll maybe pay for the housekeeper, and we'll just see how it goes, And that was the start of the company. I kid you not, it was months and months and months of, me kind of just saying no and then being like, well, maybe we'll give it a shot. Helped my first agency. They really loved it. I really only helped 3 or 4 agencies, and they just started telling everybody. And when I said I was helping them, it was very basic in the beginning. Thinking about, for example, a sales process. What are the stages of the sales process? And then what does that outbound communication need to look like to prospects? So following up with them, trying to get, initial capture through that outreach process and start a conversation to be able to quote insurance. And so it was very basic in the beginning, very laborious. It was very time consuming. I hadn't built any systems. I was typing every email and every text and customizing everything. So trying to figure out how to go from that, where I could help 1 or 2 people, a month manually by myself. And it was taking up all of the hours of my week, a lot of, working till 2 o'clock in the morning type of thing. And then trying to figure out how can this be something that we can repeat? It's scalable, it's robust, it fits into lots of agencies. That's what we've been doing for the last 6 years. So one of the most difficult things, I would say, second to marriage and parenting, so maybe third, I guess, marriage, parenting, and then building a product for a business that doesn't really exist, because we are a very odd blend of a done-for-you service and consulting, tech stacking, as well as training. We do live training too. It's been a very interesting process, but it's been trial and error. It's also been listening to our customers. Everything we've done has been built around what does the customer need? And I love working with business owners. Business to business is great because you can say things like, this is what we've done so far. Nobody's asked me to build that yet. Do you want to work with me on it? And we can invent this thing that you're asking me for, and then you can have it, and then we'll keep reselling it, And business owners are like, great, I'd love to be part of the innovation process. And so it is so much fun having great customers, but that's what shaped our product and why it is the way that it is because we had an eye on the ability to scale as well as just client feedback, and we've solicited it heavily on an ongoing basis.
That's awesome. So it sounds like the initial fit actually came very easily because there's such a demand for the types of things that you were working on. And because that happened quickly, you then had to figure out how to operationalize and repeat and rinse in a predictable manner to serve more and more customers. And then after that, you're working to continue innovating and evolve your services over time. And it's great to hear that you have a really good customer feedback loop as well. I'd be interested in another conversation if we could dive into like how you automate that as well in the space. Thinking about like the whole journey, what do you feel most proud about in terms of the work that you've done for clients with accelerated automation?
That's a good question. I don't think anybody's asked me that. The most proud about it. The thing I'm most proud about is cultivating the team that we have and the work environment that we have. Because as a business owner, creating jobs and seeing people come in and develop and thrive underneath your company, it's hugely rewarding. I'm very, very proud of that. When it comes to what we've done for customers, I think what I'm most proud of is the ability or the fact that we've created a product in a space that was in high demand that a lot of other businesses that I speak to have no interest in doing because of the amount of structure, clear expectations, and strength through the training process, I guess. I'm not sure how else to say it. But when I talk to other businesses, because I'm constantly meeting with tech CEOs and doing demos and helping with feedback and additional implementation recommendations for these companies, and I say how much in-person support we give. We run a daily support call where staff and agents can jump on. We provide live training that is all recorded and transcribed and summarized that they can put into their training libraries. And that amount of high touch service and in-person help is really not attractive to most businesses. There's so many variables when you're training people, when you're training the agent, you're training the staff. Of course, the dynamic of leadership in the agency, you can train them on something, but is that agency actually going to implement fully and hold team members accountable so they actually see the benefits of what has been put in place? Because you can automate and put in the very best technology, but if the team is not supported and there's not expectations of utilizing the tools and they're not held accountable, none of it will matter. You will just have a very expensive tech stack and you will still be spinning your wheels in your operations of your business. So I think that I'm most proud of the fact that we have not shied away from spending a lot of time with people. And so we get to work again between the tech company and the user, and we're helping to bridge that gap because the things that these tech companies are doing is amazing. But for some people, it is literally speaking a different language. They do not, you say API to people and they have no idea what you're talking about. And so we absolutely love that. So we're really committed to the user and their experience and making it very easy to understand and bringing them along that journey. And like I said, then it opens the rabbit hole. So that is what I'm most proud of, that we have not automated away the hands-on support that our clients want from us. But that's hard to do because I'm telling you, finding really good talent to train people, to train business owners who have a lot of opinions and really big personalities and sometimes really big egos. It's hard to find those people, I'm telling you. So it is not easy to do. I have wonderful people. I'm so grateful for them.
Yeah, and I imagine for you starting out, like a really high level of white glove support was possible because you were wearing all the hats and you knew how everything fit together. But in order to scale a white glove approach is extremely difficult. I've worked with a lot of companies that when they're small, they can have really high touch for a small number of customers. But as you grow over time, that's incredibly hard to scale and it inevitably tends to fall apart. So the fact that that's working really well for you is definitely a huge success.
Well, it's not without its challenges, and we have automated parts. So when you look to scale a business, you do have to be realistic in what is possible and what is not, and find that happy medium. So, for example, one of the things we implemented in the new year for our clients is they actually do go through an on-demand course that we have built. And so it is for a software that, again, that we don't own, but that software company doesn't have course-based learning material. It is more of a help library. You have to really know what you're looking for. So we saw that the basics, the very basic things like click here to send a text message, click there to send an email. Those are just basic navigation items. And so we did automate that piece. The staff is required to complete an on-demand course that covers the basics. And then we were able to make sure that the time that they spend with our trainers is those more difficult concepts and is much deeper. And then they can get that ongoing support. So what we did last year was we spent 12 hours of training with every single agency. We knew that that was going to be it was very difficult to scale and it was very difficult to maintain that level. So what we did was we implemented a course that took the place of the first 6 hours of training. And then the other 6 hours is live with additional ongoing support as they decide if they want to sign up for that as a subscription. So we're able to still get all of the benefits that our clients need, but we had to make that pivot to allow us to scale.
That totally makes sense. But coming from an IT background, specifically an IT support background, user education is one of the hardest aspects of the job, honestly. I can build the best documentation ever that has nice modals that show where to click, how to click, what people should enter. But if people aren't paying attention, or if it's too long, if it's too complicated, if it's too busy, people just won't use the documentation and you end up with basic tickets that are like, in your case, how do I send a text message? How do I send an email? In my cases, how do I reset my password? How do I access this application? Like any number of things that feel really basic to, people like you and me who are experts in a specific application, right?
Oh, 100%. And we're actually working on several other pieces as well. And when you talk about training material, I mean, we have tried everything. Like we really like Scribe How to be able to create internal and external training documents, especially now that it has the audio. So you can actually click and screenshot and explain, and it just makes those training guides. And you would think that those are extremely basic. We also make a lot of Loom videos. We love, screen share recording videos, instructional, step-by-step, click here, click there. At the end of the day, I think when it comes to small business, resources are great, but there is something about really just the wearing of multiple hats and the psychology of a small business where there is so much coming at you. As a small business owner, if you get the time to sit down and read through a Scribe or an SOP or watch a video from top to bottom with full focused attention, that's probably rare. That's not probably your day to day if you're a small business. And so a lot of the benefit of what we do in those live trainings is the fact that you are on a call with us. It is on your schedule. Your phone is off. And our trainers, when I say we have to hire great people, it's because we have these business owners, that run various sizes of businesses and have different personalities. And we do see this a lot on training. They're on their phone, they're distracted. And our trainers will literally stop, wait, and say, when you're done on your cell phone, we're going to get back to training. So there's a certain amount of holding them accountable and helping them focus and prioritize that time. And I think that is a huge benefit of live training. Even if you're on a webinar or a group call, or you listen to a podcast, you might be listening to this and you're like on your treadmill or picking your kids up from school, you're multitasking. But if you really want to learn software that you're going to use every single day in your business and you're expecting your staff to use it, there has to be a level of commitment and focus in that. And being on those live calls with a trainer who will hold you accountable and help you stay focused, that's huge.
Yeah, that is definitely huge. And one of the things that I feel like I've lost in the remote first roles that are kind of coming forward, especially in the tech sphere. Like it's a lot harder to hold people accountable and not like have a training where you know that somebody's actually paying attention to you and they're not on another tab reading the news or talking to their significant other about the groceries they need to get, or any number of things. So yeah, I think that having good trainers that are actually paying attention and capable of holding people accountable in polite ways, just to make sure that the time is being used and that you actually have people's attention is huge. So do you feel like ultimately it's this white glove approach and this like really people-centered approach that's working well for accelerated automation, or do you have some other pieces to your secret sauce that are really making you guys successful?
I would say yes. I think that that's a huge part of what we do, because all of our competition, if you will, there's really no company that is the same as ours. When there's new competition or somebody else that's helping people with the agency Zoom CRM, the first thing I do is reach out and I say, tell me all about what you're doing, because everybody is not a good fit for us. And I really like to connect business owners to great resources. They don't have the time to kind of dig into all these different companies. So I try to really push people into the right places where they're going to get the support that they want and need. So I always reach out to our competition, and this training piece is something that none of them, again, are really willing to do. They're like, oh, I don't want to deal with the headache, right? I'm just going to build a course, or I'm just going to build an on-demand, or we'll put a YouTube page together and they can figure it out themselves. So that is huge. The other things I'm really proud of is that we get constantly complimented on our workflows. And it's because it was built by the people who needed it in the industry. I mean, I was an agency owner. Me and my staff were doing these processes, and we built the systems and the workflows around what we had to do in the industry. Even still, as we're still developing more product, we just built out workflows for sales and service for Medicare inside of a CRM that is primarily designed for property and casualty insurance. But our agents that are very multi-line, they want to sell personal lines and commercial. They want to sell life insurance and Medicare all in the same system. Why do you want to jump around in different systems? That's a lot to handle. So we created, again, like a focus group. I'm not a Medicare agent. We have a team member on my team who spent a lot of time in the Medicare field, but we didn't rely just on her experience. We pulled in other agents who are large Medicare agents who do this a lot, and pulled from their best practices and their experiences and built out really robust workflows. And so when our agents get into these, we constantly hear, wow, you guys have just thought of everything, or this fit in just perfectly to my business. And in a lot of cases, they don't even have a process. Everybody in their business is doing something different, and they don't really know what works and doesn't work. And so the fact that we're handing them a process, the process workflow that is built into their CRM, and it's very easy to follow, I'm very proud of that. And how we've continued to innovate it and keep up, because the software that we work in, they literally launch an update every single month, which means that we have to rework things pretty regularly. I would say at least once a quarter. We're shifting around how our workflows are built to best maximize the system. So I'm very proud of that live training part. But I'm really proud of the actual workflows we've built, because they do apply so broadly to so many different businesses, and they work very well with little to no customization at all.
That's really awesome. I like to think a lot about how software in specific niche industries is both helpful in its own sake, right? Because it automates things and it helps each user do their tasks faster or better. But what's really interesting as well is how, as companies like yours and the software companies that themselves also learn what's working across the various niche or industries, you bake that into the workflows or into the software, and it actually uplifts everybody using it. It's almost as if you take the best agent at a company and use their workflow, and then you scale it across the company. It lifts all the users up at the same time. And it's really exciting to hear use cases of how that's happening. And it sounds like that's happening with your users, because you're taking the best of different agents and their workflows and then incorporating it into your business.
Oh, 100%. We have another service, kind of what I've been speaking about is our done for you service. It's really out of the box packaged. And we do help through customizations on training and whatnot. But we have another service that is a fractional COO service. And what you're talking about, where we actually look at the reports and the data on the team members there. So one agency in particular, we were talking about their sales process, and they really didn't have one. Like, well, everybody kind of sells differently. And I said, well, who is your best salesperson? And who they thought was their best salesperson, who was bringing in kind of the higher premium dollar. But when we actually looked at the reports, their conversion ratio was really bad. They were actually great at multi-lining, but the conversion per actual number of leads was very low. So they had to have a very large number of leads to produce what they were producing. And they had other team members who had a much better conversion ratio, but they weren't as good as multi-lining. So they were getting more customers, but the customers weren't worth as much money. So it was actually taking a look at these two people in your business have very different skills, right? This person is great at this part and this person's great at this part. Let's marry that together and create your agency best practices. And we, of course, are pulling from experience that we have from other agencies as well. We've helped almost 1,000 at this point, but that agency had its own two big hitters in different parts of the process. And we pulled them in to build that out as a agency-wide expectation. So everybody followed it, because that's what you want to do. You want to take your middle and bottom performers and move them up as far as you can and help them to grow. I think that's where a lot of small business owners get a little stuck. They don't push or encourage growth in their staff, and they kind of always just stay where they are. There's not a lot of development, and that'll hold your business back too. So definitely looking at those best practices and then implementing them across the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a huge value because a lot of times people just see the software, but when you are implementing the software and the company starts to scale the use of it, they get both the software and the fact, like you said, they're getting a sharing of best practices. It's training their staffs. It's measuring their staff's performance, and it really uplifts the whole company's operations in addition to everything else that's happening. So shifting gears a bit, looking ahead in the next 6 to 12 months in terms of business growth and where you want to take things, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we have made a lot of efforts over the last 4 months to really grow our fractional COO service. Our primary business service has been really that implementation and getting the businesses started on process and automation. And what we saw is, our repeat customers coming back for more and more help and requests and looking for more support. And so we really wanted to be with them through the entire process, start to finish, helping them create, their company intranets, their workflows, their automation, tech stacking, compliance, marketing, website updates, and then creating their standard operating procedures and their training material. And so that's where we got into that operational side. We have 18 agencies right now. We're going to be bringing on 2 more next month. And that, I think, is really the future of our company, where we want to be side by side with these businesses, advising them and helping them to really build the foundation of the business. Operations and procedures are the foundation. You can throw as much technology as you want as your business, but if you don't know where it plugs into your workflow or your process and you're not measuring it, you're just going to end up with a very expensive tech stack and not a lot of movement. That is what we are really focused on. Our goal is to double our business from last year. We are on track to do that. We have went from 16 members to 14 in the last few months, making sure we have all the right people. We've developed a really robust, of course, automated and very selective hiring process that has allowed us to bring on really wonderful people. We have determined our core values and our culture, which has really helped us attract the right individuals as well. So a lot of growth in our future that we're preparing for, but really being much more closely involved for a much longer period of time with our clients.
Awesome. That's extremely ambitious, but it sounds like you're well on track to achieve that doubling. And with the fractional COO goals in terms of taking on that role for more and more companies, what kind of challenges do you run into in achieving growth in that area? Is it like educational, that people don't quite understand what a fractional role might bring to them, or is it some other challenges that you're running into?
So the first challenge is being able to find project managers, is what we call them. They can each facilitate 8 insurance agencies. So that's why building our recruiting process and having that very selective top talent approach was very important, because we have to have individuals who probably have at least 5 to 10 years of insurance experience, hopefully in some capacity at agency ownership or agency management, as well as a passion for technology and to learn, and who can also facilitate these, conversations, creating projects and managing projects. It is extremely niche. I'm telling you, these people, they're out there, but they are hard to find and they are expensive. So, which, rightly so, they have a mountain of skills. So that is problem number 1. But we also attract in people. The last 2 project managers that I hired did not apply for a job here. They reached out to me. And so there's so much to be said about the culture of your business and attracting in the people that you want when they want to work there. We work really, really hard on our work culture so that people love it here. The second part that's very difficult, I would say education to the prospective client, but honestly, finding the right client. If you go to our website today and you look at Fractional COO for insurance agencies, you can fill out a form to learn more and I'll meet with you, but you can't purchase, nobody can just sign up for this service just blindly. We are going to do kind of an investigation period. So I meet with the business owner at least twice. We talk about expectations, the projects we can and cannot help with. And this goes back to even to our done for you service, the onboarding of clients, extremely important when you work in a space like this because you need the right clients. But anyways, so 2 meetings and then we actually survey. We just have created, of course, automated surveys that go out to the business owner to just tell us about the basics, the size, the staff, the locations, struggles. And then we have a leadership survey that we have the business owner do, reflecting on the culture and the environment of the agency. And then we survey all the staff. So we're selective. Like right now, we only have 2 spots open for fractional COO clients, and we are talking to several agencies. But I would never, ever want to onboard an agent because our contract is a year. You are committing to work with us for a year. And that is a big commitment for them and for us. And we want to be partnered with businesses who have a certain level of trust in our execution, because if they are going to delegate out something to us, they cannot be involved in every single little tiny decision. That's why they're hiring it out, right? That's why they can't do it in their own business because they don't have the time. So there has to be that level there. We also want to make sure that the teams have had at least some good experience with change management and operation management. Some teams are very, very resistant to change. And if the leadership isn't there to help them through it, we're really fighting the agency the whole way. And it's just kind of pointless. That is the hardest part. It is not even necessarily finding clients. There's a lot of people who want this service. It is finding the right people to deliver the product and service, and then the right client to make sure that they are successful with the service and we can help them get there and we're not fighting each other along the way.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So it's a lot of vetting. It's vetting prospective staff and the right people to fit the role that you're providing, and then a lot of vetting on the company side to make sure that there's good alignment between you and the company seeking the services. That's really fascinating, and I imagine a lot of that, like you hinted at, is automated, but it's still a lot of conversations to get the right configuration in place. So we like to wrap up on inspiration. Mariah, is there a podcast or a book or a person recently that's really inspired you?
Wow, man, I feel like I meet so many inspirational people every day because small business owners are just amazing. A speech recently where I was talking about, I was a commercial banker for a short period of time at JP Morgan Chase, and we used to do an icebreaker, and the icebreaker was always, if you were going to start a business, what business would you start? And no joke, I would say in the middle of a room full of business bankers, I would never start a business. Those people are crazy. And I believe that to this day. You have to have a little bit of a screw loose to think that this is going to be a really fun thing to do, is own a business, because it absorbs your entire life. So small business owners every single day are inspiring to me and motivate me to keep going because they keep going. I would say what shifted my business perspective and probably has had one of the biggest impacts on me is the book, The E-Myth. The E-Myth is all about working on your business and not in it. And I read that book back when I was an insurance agent, and I started shifting my perspective. Another person who was very influential, who gave me just, again, a small nugget of information that I ran with, was Nato Guardo. He owns a company called Fully Covered, and he used to own an insurance agency. And he did some webinars and podcasts, and he talked about hiring things out that you could hire out at a low dollar amount, figuring out what your return on investment could be, how much you could make in your business if you were doing all the right things, and then hiring out everything else, all the way down to, like I mentioned earlier, the housekeeper. Maybe don't spend 2 hours doing your lawn care, spend that business or that time on your business, and that shifted my perspective. It was a hard sell for my husband because I was like, we're going to hire out everything we can, and we're going to put our time into this, obviously, without taking away from our children. But that is the biggest. Those small business owners, the E-Myth, and then Nato really helping me understand the value of your time. That has shaped how I have moved forward as a business owner.
Awesome. That's great. And we'll get links from you on these different inspirations and resources to put in the show notes, as well as more information on how to contact Accelerated Automation and go from there. So Mariah, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate the conversation. It's been interesting to hear more about you and your business and where you look to take things.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Mariah.